So, good afternoon, everybody. This is the first webinar of ASP.NET Core Calcutta chapter. So, I'm Devasisa, working as a team lead and also as a sub-corner MVP. So, we'll start the webinar today. Just a minute. So, in today's webinar, we will discuss the following topics. These are the main key topics in our today's webinar. First one is introductions to ASP.NET Core. The second one is what is the difference between ASP.NET MVC and .NET Core. Since .NET Core is the new technology and is introduced by the Microsoft, and we are all familiar with the ASP.NET MVC framework. So what are the main difference in between these two technologies or these two framework? We'll discuss about this. And then obviously, since this is new technology, so there is some project structure differences in respect of the MVC technologies. So we will discuss about that also. What are the new project structure included in the .NET Core? Then there is a concept of .NET CLI, how we can work on the .NET CLI, and how we can create console applications using my Studio.NET, and also simple web page applications. Just a simple web applications type, and how we can add dynamic HTML. Sorry, I think someone does not mute yourself. So can you mute yourself? So go to just mute yourself. So you will also. Okay. And then also you'll see how we can configure or read the configurations file in .NET Core. And if there is at last there is a Q&A sessions. So this is the first sections in our webinar, the history of ASP.NET Core. So ASP.NET Core, the current version of ASP.NET Core is 2.1. So if we discuss about the ASP.NET Core, so Microsoft first introduced the ASP.NET Core in the year of 2016 in the June month. At that time, Microsoft launched the ASP.NET Core version 1. And then in the same year, at the month of November, they launched the next upgraded versions of the ASP.NET Core, that is 1.1. Because since ASP.NET Core is a new technology, so Microsoft first introduced its version 1, and there is some issues reported by the users or developers all over the world, and then Microsoft fixed those issues and released the new version that is called 1.1 in the month of November in 2016. Next, in the year of 2017, and the month of August, Microsoft released the next version of the ASP.NET Core, that is the version 2.0, which is much more stable product in respect to the version 1. And here Microsoft introduced some much more features like signaler, .NET CLI templating, etc. in these versions. And then in the 2018 May, Microsoft introduced a new version of 2000 ASP.NET Core, that is 2.1. And most proposed versions of the next ASP.NET Core will be the 2.2 or maybe 3 in the month of December. It will be under the beta versions. It is right now available in the beta version by the Microsoft. Hopefully Microsoft will launch this in the month of December or the January of the 2019. So now, what are the main features of ASP.NET Core? The most important features of ASP.NET Core is there's a cross-platform support. Since we are all working in the ASP Microsoft domain, previous version of Microsoft technology like ASP.NET or ASP.NET MVC, these are not the cross-platform support. We can develop the applications, but and can develop an applications and execute the applications on different operating system. But we cannot install the Microsoft Visual Studio previous version like 2008 or 2013 in other operating systems except Windows like Linux, Mac, etc. But from 2015 onwards, Microsoft has provided the other versions related Windows Visual Studio. So from that the point of view, Microsoft Core is the one of the cross-platform support where we can same develop the applications on for the Linux operating systems or any other operating systems. Also, it's an open source language. Microsoft MVC or ASP.NET MVC is not an open source language. It's basically is a, not, but ASP.NET Core is totally the open source language, and is as per the open source language. Other open source we can contribute in this project also. Here we can use the modular web packages concept. Modular web packages is the basically in the previous version of Microsoft ASP.NET, Microsoft normally use the project-wise web packages, where every project must contain the web packages like NuGet, and they can download the packages from NuGet, or we can create our own packages and upload in the NuGet. But in ASP.NET Core, we are using ASP.NET Core Microsoft using the modular web packages concept. Here, each and every sections means here you when a project actually installed or a project actually initialized by the .NET environment, automatically its download is NuGet related package from the environment and provides it. And second, third, fourth is the high performance of the ASP.NET Core performance. In respect of the executions of the other languages, ASP.NET Core is a much more faster language as per the execution point of view. It's unified the MVC and Web API framework. Like previous version of ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core also support the MVC architecture and including they also support the Web API frameworks. In the ASP.NET, which I said earlier, and the different versions of ASP.NET Core. In the previous version of ASP.NET Core, it does not have support the WebSockets or Signaler, that is 1 or 1.1. But ASP.NET 2 or 2.1, we got the supports of WebSockets on Signaler. So Microsoft recently introduced Signaler in the ASP.NET Core, and hopefully our more features will be available in the next version of ASP.NET Core. And the most important features is that we can develop our ASP.NET Core language without using the Microsoft Visual Studio, which is basically is not possible in the previous version of ASP.NET. If we want to develop the ASP.NET project, we need to install or use as Microsoft Visual Studio software or a code source code editor to write the code and compile. We can write a code in our any language in any code editor, but for the compilations of the previous version of the ASP.NET, we must need the Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio. But in from ASP.NET Core, we can use the Microsoft Visual Studio, but not it is necessarily not required. We can write down our code in Visual Studio, Visual Code, or any other code editor and compile the code and execute. So Microsoft Visual Studio is not required, not essentially required for our ASP.NET Core projects. So this is the basic concept of ASP.NET Core. This is the main architecture of ASP.NET Core in actually. In ASP.NET 4 or previous versions, ASP.NET 4.6, a previous version, or ASP.NET earlier of version, we have the three sections, that is web forms, MVC, and web API. These three sections are combined with the .NET Framework 4.6 versions, which is basically system.org, and this is totally depends on the .NET Framework library. So it mainly support on the Windows operating system platform. So in this picture, the left hand side is basically the previous version of the ASP.NET Core, whereas on the right hand side is the main architectural diagram of the ASP.NET Core. So ASP.NET in ASP.NET Core, there is no such segregations between web forms, MVC, or web API. They all are equal. Actually, they all are clubbed and bundled and known as the ASP.NET Core MVC. In ASP.NET Core MVC project, we can create web forms. Basically, here web forms does not exist, or you can use the web form.aspx file. ASPX file we can create in ASP.NET Core. We can create a CSHTML file like MVC, and also the API. And entire library is depends on the ASP.NET Core 1.0 framework library, and this framework library has been module-wise libraries and is related to the Windows, Linux, and Mac. So since ASP.NET Core is basically is a open source language, so every so ASP.NET Core is a open source language, so it supports all the operating systems right now, and we can develop or can write code in any operating systems and can execute or deploy that code in any other. Suppose I write down the code in Windows operating systems and can then compile the code and deploy it in a Windows Linux environment. So for that I does not need to install the Linux and develop in the Linux. We can develop in the Windows environment and install in the Linux environment, used in the product in the Linux environment. So next point is how we install the ASP.NET code. There are two different ways we can install the ASP.NET code. First of all, one there is a Microsoft provide the .NET Core SDK, which is available in the Microsoft official website, where from where we can download the .NET Core SDK. .NET Core SDK is required only when if you use Microsoft Visual Studio 2015 versions. If we want to write, or if we don't need to, we don't want to use the ASP.NET Microsoft Visual Studio, we want to use the other source editor, code editor like Visual Code, then we need to use this .NET Core SDK install in that machine separately. These are the available in Microsoft official site. So we can download these versions. There is a different version. So you basically need this .NET Core framework and .NET Core. When we click on this link, we will get the available links on this. I will show you. Mm, So just see microsoft.com/download. Search .NET Core SDK. Yes, this is a different versions of .NET Core SDK. We can suppose we want to using the latest .NET Core SDK. So can go this site. It will download the version 2.0 SDK. Okay. And if you want to use Microsoft Visual Studio 2017, then it will automatically install with the inbuilt .NET Core SDK. So in that case, we does not need to install any separate SDK tools or exe in our machines. So when we install the Microsoft Visual Studio 2017, any version, either it's a community or it's enterprise or it's a professional version, we need to tick or check these options: ASP.NET and web development. It will contains all the ASP.NET or web development related installer or packages, including previous ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core, HTML, JavaScript, and also the container for the Docker support. These four all options is available under this ASP.NET and web development options. So this is the installation, how you can install the ASP.NET. Now, after installations, if we want to check that either the ASP.NET Core is installed in our computer or not, we can simply go to the command prompt. Sorry. We can go simply to the command prompt and type .NET version. It will show you the which version is already installed. If your .NET Core installed in your machine, it will show its version number. So in this way, we can confirm that in our computer, .NET Core already has been installed or not. If after succeeding of installations, .NET does not version is does not available in the command prompt, that means there is some installations problem in the system. Okay. So now return back to the presentations. So what are the difference between ASP.NET MVC and ASP.NET Core? So the first difference is ASP.NET Core, which is I have already said earlier, that is it's a cross-platform support. ASP.NET Core supports cross-platform OS. That is, it supports Windows applications, Apple and Mac, Linux, every operating system it supports. So you can develop for all any operating system. The next one is the project structure change. In ASP.NET Core, there is some changes in our solution project structure. In this picture, the left-hand side project structure is our classic MVC project structure, which is available in ASP.NET MVC 5, or say we can say that .NET 4.5 or 4.6 versions. Where if we in there where if we create a MVC type web applications, ASP.NET web applications with MVC template, then these all folders are created. That is app data, abstract, content, controller, font, model, script, views, etc. And also there is a file called global.ajax file, which is contain the configurations, and also the web config file, which basically is the configuration file. And then there is a startup.cs page, which is basically startup bootstrapping file of our applications. But whereas if in ASP.NET Core, if we create the same type of applications, or that is ASP.NET Core, if we want to create a MVC type applications, then this will be the project structure. This is in ASP.NET Core, project structure is much more smaller. It does not provide such all the facilities. That is, app data or abstract has been deprecated from the ASP.NET Core, and in place of app data and abstract, there is a new folder is arrived that is called www root folder. It's a main folder which is take place in place of app data and abstract. Controllers is remain same as like previous versions. Model is remain same. Views is remain same. But there is another file has been replaced, that is global.ajax. Global.ajax has been replaced in ASP.NET Core with the appsetting.json. So if we want to provide the connection string or something like the configuration information which I normally provide in the global.ajax or wave config, in ASP.NET Core we need to provide those informations in a appsettings.json file. So abstracting.json basically is a simply JSON structured file where we can store any type of configuration information using key pair value. Will so how will it will work in today's session. And also there is a two different one new file has been introduced in this project structure, that is program.cs, which is basically invoked at the beginning when we start executions our applications. And the same like previous version, there is a startup.cs file. It's remains same. So in the respect of the previous version, there is two file has been replaced. Global.ajax has been deprecated, and that is not exist in our current system or ASP.NET Core project. And wave config is basically replaced by the abstracting.json file. So all the configuration file, configuration information related, which we earlier provided in a wave config file, now onwards in ASP.NET Core, we need to provide those informations in a abstracting.json file as a key pair value. This is the main changes in the project structure. The next one is the most important, that is for deploying ASP.NET Core applications in any server or any machine, we does not need the IIS for hosting. That means that's not it means IIS is not the only hosting applications for ASP.NET Core. Since ASP.NET MVC applications we require to IIS to host our applications, but in ASP.NET Core, we can host our applications in any platform. So that means only the dependency of the IIS is not too much here in here. We can deploy our IIS, our applications in Nginx, in Linux server, or Apache, or Docker, using the Docker in the Linux environment. So this is the main hosting concept or at the booting procedure in ASP.NET Core. The first image shows the hosting mechanisms or request and response mechanisms in ASP.NET MVC, where client send a request to the IIS. IIS send the applications a request, and a begin request method has been invoked, and then authenticate in request invoked, and sequentially authorize the request has been authorized. After authorizations of the request, a process has been happened, that is to process the request, and then a request has been in and return to the response. If there is an error, that is then handle error method has been invoked and create the logs or return the logs. But in ASP.NET Core, the same concept is happened where client send a request to the IIS or Apache or Nginx. Then that web server send that information to the ASP.NET Core applications. In ASP.NET Core, Kestrel web server has been activated, and it collect the informations, request related informations from the applications layer, and generate the response and return to the layer. So the life cycle of the applications in ASP.NET MVC is much uh, in details, or there is some much more methods in the life cycle mechanism. But in ASP.NET Core, there is a simplified mechanism that ASP.NET Core Kestrel has been first executed, and then it's collected information from the applications directly and send the response. And also for handling error, it's ASP.NET Core applications Kestrel web server handles the error by itself. And that is installation process of applications. So we can install the applications in multiple packages. So code need to be compiled along with the NuGet packages, and can download packages from npm or Bava. In ASP.NET, sorry, in ASP.NET MVC, when we uses any package, download any packages in a NuGet, it basically provides some DLLs. So after downloading the packages, if we change the DLL we put the DLL in a common folder and take the references of the DLL from that folder, then also our ASP.NET MVC project will work. And because at the deployment time, it does not require the NuGet package, it only require the DLL. But in ASP.NET Core, we always require these NuGet packages to compile the project. And also we can create our own packages for our applications, and then deploy and upload those in applications in the npm or NuGet, so that other users or other persons can download those packages and reuse in their applications. The most important is the new feature, that is mobile app development. In ASP.NET Core, mobile app development has been introduced by the Microsoft. So we can now develop mobile-based applications using ASP.NET Core. We can use Xamarin for mobile app development. So in that, Xamarin is similar like the C# language, and it's totally depend on the base platform of the C#. So it's a coding pattern or coding architecture is same as the C#, just the UI designing has different. In web applications, there is a shared library, shared layer concept for all the mobile application style. So if we developed any mobile applications in Xamarin, if we developed any mobile application in Xamarin, if we developed the mobile applications in Xamarin, so then that applications can be run in Android, iOS, or Windows platform at a time. So Xamarin is one type of applications which can create applications, and we can deploy that applications or mobile apps in 3 different platforms. For that, we does not need to code the 3 different way. And another advantage of the ASP.NET Core is the microservice. My ASP.NET Core is support the microservices concept. It is a software development technique to split our code or distribute our code into small parts of the sections. A variant of service-oriented architecture for the loosely coupled services and a performance improvement. So obviously, at the time of executions, the ASP.NET Core performance is much more better related to the previous versions. So .NET Core provides performance boost in the applications. It provides direct deployment in the cloud. In ASP.NET applications, if we use Microsoft Visual Studio and we want to host our applications in the Azure platform, then we can directly deploy our applications in our Azure platform directly from the Microsoft Visual Studio using the Microsoft Visual Studio. For that, we does not need to open the Azure console and copy, upload the file as by FTP via FTP and then download and then install. We can directly deploy our applications in the Azure portal, Azure server from our Visual Studio applications. This is the one of the comparisons of the execution plan of, of different applications in ASP.NET Core and other languages. So now, in ASP.NET Core, there is a new concept is introduced that is called .NET CLI. Since ASP.NET Core is a cross-platform applications or programming language, so it need to support all the programming, all the operating system. So for that reason, ASP.NET Core provided CLI command line interface system in ASP.NET Core. So CLI basically means command line interface or command-based system. We can create use commands to create our projects or deploy our project or run our projects, which are we normally do in the previous version of ASP.NET by using the Windows Microsoft Visual Studio. But as I said earlier, for ASP.NET Core, Microsoft Visual Studio is essentially not required. So we can uh, type our code in a notepad and can then compile the code in a command line environment. So we can create .NET Core project using a command line CLI command. Command called template engine. When we execute any command, create command or something any other command in the CLI environment, it execute the template engine to create the project structure on the disk. This is the basic syntax of our .NET Core template creations or project creation using the CLI. We'll come to the later in this exercise. So this at the I'll come here. This is the basically the some CLI command which is required we can use in our .NET CLI. So just I go to the command prompt which I already said. Just increase the font size a little bit. So just like previous command, if we want to know what are the commands is available under the .NET template engine. So this .NET is basically represent a .NET template engine. So if we want to know what are the commands is available under this .NET template engine, then with the command is .NET help. It will give us a list of commands with the along documentation, so how we need to use the commands. Execute a .NET Core application, so we can use this. This is the command. So if we want to add any package or reference, we can use the add command. Or if you want to build a project, then we can use the build command. Or integrate with the server. For that, we can use a build server. There are different types. So there is a command called new. New is basically used to create a new .NET project or any file. Also, there is a command for the publish. If we want to publish our deployment applications, then we can use the .NET Core publish command. Similarly, remove, store. There are different types of command. Now, suppose I want to know how to create a new .NET Core project by using the new command. So for that, I need to run this help syntax, and it will help provide me all the details of the .NET Core CLI related core new project created command line .NET new. This is the actual command, and then after it there are several syntaxes required to specify the types of projects or what are the options you want to include in at the time of creating a project. So for that, simply type .NET space new space help, and it will provide all the project types which these are the parameters we need to provide. That is H, help, L, O means output location to place the generated output, etc. Install to source a template pack, etc. And these are the different templates which are available in .NET Core framework for creating a new project. These are the all different types of project. These types of templates are available. If we using Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio, then in this all templates are available under Microsoft Visual Studio. But if we does not want to use Microsoft Visual Studio, we want to write the code in separate in other source code editor, then these comments are very useful for us. Suppose this is the console applications command. For if we want to create a console application, then we need to use the command console short name command. That means the syntax will be, in that case, the syntax will be .NET new console. So the main syntax is .NET space new, and then we need to provide the short name of the related project type, which type of project we want to use or want to create in our applications. So as per the project type, we will provide the it will create the template of that projects with the blank view. So there are different types of template type. There's the one it's console applications. If you want to use the class library, DLL type project and the class lib, unit test project, MST test, in unit test projects, or MVC view import, ASP.NET Core empty project. It's a core empty project, does not give us any sample template for it. If you want a MVC type project, MVC project or solutions, then you need to use the MVC. This is the MVC project template name, ASP.NET Core Web App. So as I said earlier, there is a no differences between the ASP.NET MVC or applications. Both are in the same platform. So MVC Core Web App is the basically Razor, but this is not the MVC, it's the Razor engine. If we want to use the project in where we want to use Angular JS in the front end part, and want to use controller in the backend part, then we need to use ASP.NET Code with Angular. It's a predefined template. ASP.NET Core React. This is provided by the React template and React and Redux template, etc. If we want to use the JSON file, then we can create the global JSON.json file or global JSON syntax. Or if you want to create OF config, which is deprecated in the current version, but we can also create the same applications for the previous versions which run in the Windows domain or previous version, then we can use the OF config also. Now, suppose I want to know the details of any particular template. So I will type .NET new console / help. What will happen? It will give you the syntax, available syntax or options of this project template type. What are the commands or how you need to use it? Suppose I'll give you another example. I will change it to MVC. See, these are the different options or authorizations which is required when we want to create a MVC type project. That is a project template for creating ASP.NET Core MVC. That is, every MVC type project always contains some authentications. By default, authentication is none. But if we wanted individual authentications or single authentications or multi-organization authentications or Windows authentications, then we can need to provide this key value, hyphen auth or double hyphen auth with this value Windows. Then it will create or none. By default value is none. If we does not provide any key value, then it will provide a none options. Similarly, the reset password, policy ID, edit policy ID, instance, client ID, domain, tenant ID of the directory to connect using a single authentication, string optional, this type. Callback path, different, there is a different key parameter which if we want that, this is the most important today in ASP.NET Core or today's web application, that is the HTTPS. Since if we want to use a secure socket or secure layer in our applications and want to host the applications in the HTTPS domain, then we need to provide this value. By default, the value is false, but if we want that our application when hosted in the server, it must be run under the HTTPS domain, then we need to provide this parameter value to true. Similarly, there is a local DB specified when to use local instead of SQLite. This option is basically for the Xamarin only, not the web apps, because it is related to the Xamarin. So these are the different options under the ASP.NET Core or ASP. This way we can get the informations of ASP.NET Core related. So any type of syntax which are running in the .NET Core CLI, if we want to know about that syntax or details parameters of the syntax, we just need to write down this help syntax after that command, and it will give us the details parameter list or details options informations regarding this syntaxes. Okay. So return back to the presentation. These are the sample, and also see, I'll just run clear the previous command. A .NET New does not give only the template name; it also provide the available languages in which you can develop uh, in ASP.NET code. Just like console applications, in case of console application, you can write the code in C#, F# or VB. So this type of three type of language is available for the console applications. But when in case of ASP.NET Core app, web app or model view, and only the C# or F# is available. So there are some applications which are only applicable for the C# languages, or there are some other template which can be developed in the C# or any other language. Since in case of Angular or React, the main server side part is need to be developed in C# and the front end part is related to the Angular or the React.js. So that's why it is shown is the C#. And this tree is the SPA type applications. This tree always is a tag is a SPA type of single page application. So if we want to create a single page types application template, then we have the three options, that is either it's with Angular or with React.js or with React.js or Redux. Okay. So the previous syntax, which is actually is only this is the actual the syntax of the .NET New. .NET New template name, that is which type of template you want to create. It is so console or MVC or web app, etc. And according to that, there are different parameters which is available under the new command parameter. Now, if we want to use a .NET Core applications using F# language, then this will be the syntax. So normal syntax is .NET New Console. If we use only .NET New Console, in that case, the project which is created is mainly developed in the C# language. But if we want to use the other any other language except C# like VB or F#, then we have to specify that language using like this the hyphen lang space within course that language name, or it is available in the template list. So this will create an ASP.NET Core C# application project in the current directory with no authentication. So this is the another syntax. If we want to create a ASP.NET Core C# MVC applications project in the current directory where I exist with no authentication, then this will be the syntax .NET New MVC space hyphen AU none. If we want to create this authentication must be from Windows, then in place of none we need to use the Windows keyword. Now let's go to the console again and we'll create a simple console applications here. Just go to the H drive, create a demo folder, and within that demo folder, I'll now create another folder, set demo console app. Setting. If I browse this folder from my Windows Explorer, right now it's totally empty. Okay. Now I'll run the console app create command .NET new console. See, when I execute the console, it will create the call the template engine and create the file. This always create your project, a CS project file, which is basically the Visual Studio project file, a program.cs file, and an object folder. Okay. Without writing any changes, I simply run .NET build. It will build the existing source code and give you a message. And then if you run the code, .NET run, it will execute the code. So in that code, there is a message called hello world. Now I come here and open this file in Notepad. So now change the content of the code. Okay. Now again build a project and run the applications. See, the result does not change because it does not save the applications. Now I save. So the content has been changed. So for that running a console application, it does not need any Visual Studio Code or Microsoft Visual Studio. Now return back to the presentations. Okay. So now I will create another project, say MD sample web demo. CD sample web demo. And now here we will create a ASP.NET Core web applications. .NET new web. Oh, I'll provide the sample project solution name, which is sample web demo. Okay. Oh, sorry. It is not out 0. It's O without output. So output will be in this folder. Let's back to the demo. There is another folder called sample demo. So project structure has been created and say there is a project structure. Okay. Now look, what will be the difference between this syntax, -o or without o? I'll back to the folder and create another folder, md sample demo 1, sample demo 1, and cd sample demo 1. Now again run the same syntax, just change the name of the project and sorry, it is not required. See, this is the two difference of the sample. First one, when we use the sample demo project, here we use this command. This is the command we used in the sample demo project, and the output is this. When we're using the sample web demo, it create a folder named sample demo, and within that folder it's get all the file related to its. But when in the second case, when it does not provide any hyphen o, the hyphen o basically stands for the output files, and it is the folder name in which folder this output file will be replaced or located created. So if it does only create the .NET new web, then all the files will be created in the current locations. There, this is the no others folder has been created. It's only created as project related folders. Okay. Now we just change any of these projects. Simply .NET build. Simply build a project. It will take 1 or 2 minutes because at the time it's restored the demo application, so it will take faster. Now simply run. Since there will be no result will come in the console because since it is a web application, so you need to see the result in your browser. So just copy this code, go to the browser and press enter. Sorry, it's 5000 using 5000 port. Okay, there is some error in the package. We'll see it. We'll just return back to the presentation. Okay, wait. Stop this. CD space enter demo. Now this is in this there is another folder cd space sample web demo. So there is all the file exists the first created. Now I want this project to open in the Visual Studio Code. So that for that purpose we need to write down this command code space dot. It will open the entire project in the Visual Studio Code. So this is the project. It's already created some code here. Two files are already has been created. One is program.cs file and another is startup.cs file. And also within the www, when we open any Visual Studio Code applications in .NET Code, it asks you to add some libraries for that extension. Just create a yes. If you mark this yes, then there is a link folder has been automatically created that is called a Visual Studio, and it will provide a create some core CLI and which will help you to intelligence of the code writing the code in here and also. So now in that go to the terminal window and here run the syntax .NET build successfully .NET run. So now I'll just open it. The main problem is that it's run in the HTTPS section. So we just remove this HTTPS and run it in the local host because in our computer there is no HTTPS part. And see the message has been come that is a hello world, which is written here. Sorry, we just close this. If we write something, we'll come to ASP.NET Core Save it and go to the browser and refresh the browser. It will not refresh because it's not compiled till yet. So stop the run mode, compile it, and run. Go there. Okay. So content has been changed. Now back to the these two file. There is a two files called, one is program.css file, CS file, and another is startup.cs. Startup.cs actually is basically the startup file of our applications. By default, the startup.cs file has been created two method. One is the configure service method, which is basically used if we want to inject any service in, and another is the configuration method. There is two options. That is, if the environment is development, there is the development extension page. Otherwise, mm, in the production mode, it does not show the development extension page. So now we want to display. Now return back to the presentation. Now we want to create a HTML type content. We want to create or display the HTML type content here and render in the browser. So it is called a dynamic HTML rendering. Since in ASP.NET Core, so basically is a code base, so that's dynamic HTML containing means we can create any type of HTML content here and display in the browser. For that, what we require to know. See, within the now simply create a folder named pages. Okay, you can create the folder name as a views also. I just create the folder name pages, and here I create a file called index. Basically, index is a startup file of any application, and the extension one must be csharp HTML or CSHTML. So create that file, use @page razor engine, and here type this h1 welcome to the ASP.NET Core. Okay, save it, build. So see, at the till now, that is building time will take some time because it restores some NuGet packages. Since we are using the index.html file, so it will provide a NuGet package for this. If we get that, this is the .NET Core references DLL which already been created. We does not use any NuGet packages. Now, sorry, run that application. Get executed. Now refresh it. But there is no changes in the output because since we create a C-sharp HTML page, which is basically is a part of our MVC type framework. So when we create these applications, we use the template of web applications. That is, we does not provide that mention that this is an MVC type application. So we must invoke tell the .NET Core library system that this is basically the MVC type applications, and you need to run the C-sharp render the C-sharp HTML file in your browser. So for that, we need to create a separate method. Here we need to use services dot add MVC. We need to use the MVC layer or MVC package in our applications. So service is the what are the services available in these applications means. So where I use the configure.service, I use the services dot add MVC. If we see it, that services dot there is a different types of available services available in the .NET Core. These all are the different types of services. So which are the types of services required? We need to add here. in the configure service method at the beginning, and as per them and then implement this. It's all at the different service. If we want to create any custom services for our own like microservices, we can create that microservices and then include this microservice in our applications like within this configure service method. Now, after adding the service, we need to use that service, and we for using that service we need to go to the configure method and attach the MVC service in the applications. So that we need to use this is the so you can say that this is the attach take the reference of the MVC framework. In the previous concept we will take the references of the MVC service in our applications, and then we attach the application MVC applications in our applications. This is actually is the our applications framework or application container. Now you can stop the applications, build and run. Refresh the page. See, the content has been changed as per the HTML. So content has been changed as per the HTML. If we want to change any content here, it will automatically update right now. Now go to the index.html, type another. Suppose I provide this today's at the rate today and refresh the browser. Sorry, there is some mistake. Okay, we also can retrieve the data from display the data. Okay, just I'll show you the sample code. So you can use the this one in place of hardcoded date. Use this date at the rate date time and now. That will give you the full date time format. Now suppose we want to add another HTML page in this folder. Suppose employee .html, and here we also call the employee details. We'll create a heading employee details information, and we'll provide this information in the below sections. Now how can we display this page in our browser? Because when we run this page, it is basically hit the index page. But if we want to display the employee page, then just write down the slash dot slash that page name. It will create a own routing system like this. So this type ASP.NET Core maintains its own routing system. We never mentions any routing in our applications, but whenever we create the multiple HTML pages, it automatically creates its own routing according to the page names. Index is the default, and then according to the pages, which are the page CSS HTML page name, that routing automatically work. Okay. Now, in the previous sections, we said that we will create. This is actually is called a dynamic HTML temp rendering. Okay. Now the configuration. So configuration is the stored application level configurations. What are the configuration? Basically capture all the applications level configuration like connection string, database, etc. It basically is a in ASP.NET Core normal file name convention of the configuration file is the app settings.json, and it stored the JSON key value pair JSON objects, and we can use the .jsons or .ini or .xml files here. Oh, sorry. So now how we can create the configurations file? Suppose I'll go to there and create another file that is called app settings.json. Okay, and this file I create a JSON object, say message informations from type something value configurations file. This is the key, message is the key, and this is the value. We can create multiple key pair value in this. Now I want to display this message in the say close the index page after this information. For that I need to write down some extra code. I have to activate my configuration setting in my startup.cs page. For that we need to include microsoft.extension.configurations. Okay. And then we need to create configuration config service. Sorry. Oh, okay. Now create a constructor of this class and initialize this interface, which we normally do. I configuration say config service. So I do one thing, provide this as a so I initialize the interface here, and now return to your index page. Here we need to use these configurations system Microsoft extension. Better to copy the content directly from here. Okay, and then inject the configuration service in your UI with a variable name config service. Okay, now informations from configuration at the rate config service, which this is the variable which we create here, and within that provide the key name message in there, build a project. Defined reference Okay, just open another project which I've already created. So I have created a configuration service and create the constructor class and here rest. Okay, and sorry, page one is not showing index one. They are using Microsoft extension configurations and I configuration. And now if we run this .NET build, and also see in the configuration file, this is the message it's coming. I'll refresh it. See, this is the contents is coming from the configurations file. If we create another content here, so version, and we provide this is the version of 0.01, and in the index page, we'll just copy this text and change version. Refresh the page. So in this way, we can store our any configuration information in app settings.json files, and which can be accessible in our CSHTML page and also in the server-side pages here also. Because if we take a breakpoint here, mark a breakpoint here, and refresh it. If you're using the Visual Studio, then you can create a breakpoint, and you can check that all the configuration has been stored in this underscore config variable. So this is the implementation of the configurations in ASP.NET Core projects. Either it can be a console applications or it's a web-based applications. Normally configurations files are JSON files, but we can use the just INI files or XML files also. So these are the main contents of today's